Hi, good evening, everybody. This is Pastor David here, and today is another session of Once Upon a Time with Rinpoche. And today the topic is going to be on meeting Dorje Shukden. So, yeah, it's a big one. And as you can see, we have a new desk. Manjushri has turned into Dorje Shukden for the occasion. Rinpoche remains, of course. And so I basically, this is going to go back way back into time for me. Sometime 17, 18 years back for me. And when I first met Rinpoche, that's the time when I first met Rinpoche, that period when I was introduced to Dorje Shukden. And I will tell you why in the circumstances in a short while. I'm just buying a little bit of time so that more people can come on. And let me see who's on. A shout out to everyone who has met Dorje Shukden, who is practicing Dorje Shukden. Please share with me how. You don't have to write a whole long story. I know, you don't have to do a whole 100-word, 200-word thesis on or story on how you met Dorje Shukden. You can just tell me in general, from the blog, through Rinpoche, through a friend, and it's something like that. Just a short one will do. It'd be very interesting to read about your own experience on how you met Dorje Shukden. All right. Oh, anyway, let me go to that place and see some who's on. Unfortunately, I am using an old laptop. It's a little slow. Okay, I'm on. Oh, I see. Hi, Jerry. Hi. Well, Freon is here. Hi, Pastor Shin. Hi, Esther. Thank you for joining us, Pastor Naral and Sharon Ong. Thank you. If you would like, please share with me, any of you, your own experience on how you met Dorje Shukden. Okay, I think it's enough people, and I will just start the story anyway, right? Because it's going to be a slightly long one today. When I first met Rinpoche, it was at the gym. I think I mentioned it 2 sessions ago. I met Rinpoche at the gym, not Dorje Shukden, just Rinpoche. So what happened was, I know nothing about Dharma. I don't know anything about, Tibetan Buddhism, of Gelug tradition. I barely knew any Dharma, in fact. So what happened was, Rinpoche did invite me on one occasion to his house for dinner with a few of his students and friends. So I remember when I went to his house. It was a double-story link house in Bandar Utama. All right, and as I entered into the house, I remember this very clearly. It was a living room, of course, and then there was a dining area behind it, dining and kitchen. All right, so the living area had no images of Dorje Shukden. It was a TV console, the Dalai Lama, and a picture collage. There's a frame that has many pictures of various gurus of Rinpoche, and that's on the TV console. And also there's another console with a large porcelain Kuan Yin, some smaller Buddha images, and a white Tara statue. And I remember it was really striking because Rinpoche had really good taste. That wall was turquoise. This wall was saffron yellow. So it was very striking, and it had spotlights shining. So it was very engaging visually. So I was like looking at everything. I was looking at the white Tara. I had no idea who it was. I thought it was Kuan Yin at that time. And then I see another Kuan Yin. Oh, another Kuan Yin. And then and the smaller images. And then it was dinner. So we were Rinpoche ushered us to his dining area. And I remember his dining area had an altar there. And there was a Song Rinpoche statue. I didn't know who it was, but now I know who it is because it was Song Rinpoche with his goatee. There's a statue, and then there was a guru tree, And then behind it is an adjoining back section where there was an altar there. It was a little dim in the area, and there was a pendant Lamo statue, and no, not statue, sorry, a picture, a big picture. I first saw the picture, and then I noticed pendant Lamo statue, and then Doji Shukden statue. That was my first time seeing Doji Shukden. I remember that time during dinner, I asked Rinpoche, I wanted to ask about, actually, I was most curious about the Guru tree because there was so many deities, and I was looking every single one. Is like, wow, you know, it was very intricate. It was really fascinating because there's a lot of detail in the picture. So it was a tanka, obviously it was a frame tanka. So but I didn't because there was people there, and then Rinpoche was talking about something else. I can't remember what it was that time, but and then when I got a chance, I did ask, but I didn't ask about the Guru tree. I asked about the image there. That image on a lower altar above was pendant Lamo on a shelf, and as a lower altar there was a golden statue of Dorje Shugden. It was actually in color. The statue of Dorje Shugden is in color, but the hat was gold, the sword was gold, and the implements was all gold. So it was kind of shining because there was a light, some kind of offering Rinpoche offered, and it was shimmering. So I was like, who's that? And Rinpoche said, Dorje Shugden, obviously. And when Rinpoche told me Dorje Shugden, I was like, who? I had to ask a few times because it couldn't register because it was Tibetan. And it was my first time listening to Tibetan words, Tibetan name, a deity that's in Tibetan. So I couldn't get it the first few times I remember. That was my first exposure to Dorje Shugden. All right. And okay. Hi, Larry. Thank you for joining me and in my story of Rinpoche and of me meeting Dorje Shugden through Rinpoche. That was my first time hearing his name. Subsequently, there was I think it was months later, Rinpoche told me about Dorje Shugden in a sense that he wanted me to write about Dorje Shugden. He said there is a need to write about Dorje Shugden for me, and it would be good for me. And but before I can write, I should read up. So Rinpoche gave me a number of resource, online resource websites, a number of books. It was printed material, not really books. It was printed material. I remember notes from various sources to read up. And at that time, I was not too keen about the whole writing research thing, but I was still interested in the sense of learning. So I read up, and yeah, that was a time when Rinpoche, he didn't tell me to practice. Rinpoche never told me to pray to Dorje Shugden that time. He just told me you should learn about him. It will be good for you. And so I read up. And he encouraged me to read up both about the practice, about his incarnation, and also about the other aspects, the controversy, and if I had any questions to ask him. So that was how I was got into it at that time. Rinpoche never gave me the mantra. I couldn't find the mantra at that time. But I could, I didn't know what a mantra was actually. That it was so pathetic, but I really didn't even know what a mantra is. So anyway, yeah, I was told to research about it, and then now it comes to this part that was very, very interesting. It's a little mystical. On one occasion when I was with Rinpoche, just the two of us in his dining hall, and Rinpoche had a phone call. Yeah, Rinpoche had a phone call, and I can't remember it was him getting a phone call from his phone or he went to call someone, because he went upstairs, but I can hear Rinpoche's voice, and he was and it was the first time hearing Rinpoche speaking in Tibetan. Rinpoche spoke in Tibetan, and I could understand that it was Tibetan because I couldn't understand what it meant. Yeah, that I didn't know how Tibetan sound like. It was my first time, but it was another language, so I assumed it was Tibetan. And you know what was interesting? For a moment, because Rinpoche went on and on. You know, when Rinpoche at that time, Rinpoche, when he talks to someone, is not a 5 minute, 10 minute. It was like 1 hour, 2 hour phone conversation. Any gathering with Rinpoche is usually half the day to the entire night to dawn. That's Rinpoche, typical Rinpoche. So Rinpoche was up for a long time, and he was talking and talking and talking. So I was just, you know, playing my phone and looking around. You know, when Rinpoche's not around, so I start looking at everything and I had a weird experience. The voice from upstairs shifted. It shifted towards Dorje Shugden. For a moment, I couldn't tell if Rinpoche's voice was coming from upstairs or from the statue. I was like, wow, what happened? You know, I didn't know what's going on. So when Rinpoche came down later, I told Rinpoche, and this is exactly how I phrased it, because I remember, and actually I forgot about it. Rinpoche reminded me of a couple of years back. I said that if that, I didn't remember Dorje name, by the way. If that statue, that deity has a voice, he would have your voice. That's what I said to Rinpoche. And I just thought it was wow, you know, in a sense that there was some kind of sign. It was mystical. And for Rinpoche, he didn't say a word. He didn't say anything. And I forgot about it until Rinpoche reminded a few years ago. Rinpoche said that, and in hindsight, Rinpoche said that it shocked him that anyone would say something like that. And then he told me, this time he told me, he said what he felt. Because at that time, we just carry on a conversation, blah, 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 you know. And I didn't think much about it. And yeah, from there on, Rinpoche just encouraged me to read up, to write, to read up, and being me, that time I was very, very young. I was in my 20s. Young in a sense that sit down, research, and write is not something that I was really good at. So it was a struggle, and I had to. I didn't in the first attempt. I didn't finish the work, and so what happened was, Rinpoche was like not happy with me because I promised Rinpoche that I would write about Dorje Shugden, and I didn't fulfill my promise. So what happened was, there are other things that happened which I wouldn't talk about it here because today will be specifically about Dorje Shugden. And then later on, there was a second attempt. And this time Rinpoche was very serious. He wanted me very badly to write about it. And he said, I'll get you sponsored. That was the time I was in between jobs. Because when Rinpoche first talked about Dorje Shugden, I was working. I was working in, if I'm not mistaken, Canon Marketing Malaysia. So I had a day job. And then evenings or whatever, I come and look for Rinpoche and we go out or whatever. What happened was, then after that, I resigned from the job and was in between jobs. It took me a year before I got my second job. And during that period of time, Rinpoche was dead serious that I should write. And I was, no. And so what Rinpoche did was, Rinpoche found a sponsor for me to write. And I reluctantly agreed and together with another writer. Okay, so there was two of us. We were to write this book on Dorje Shugden. So we didn't finish it. Yeah, to keep the long story short, we did not finish it, and Rinpoche was not happy with me. And because during the time when I attempted to write it, I did write bits and pieces of it. Rinpoche told me, you haven't finished the work and you collected the money, you should return the money. So I did. I returned the money. So in the end, what happened was years later, guilty conscience. Then when I started knowing about Doshun and then started knowing more about Dharma and all that, I realized, okay, that is really bad broken Samaya. I didn't know what Samaya was anyway, but then finally later I realized what it meant. And I guilty conscious. So when Rinpoche was not really happy with me, so I decided that, okay, since Rinpoche really wanted me to write, so I did it. I spent a long time composing something out, and I sent it to Rinpoche and offered as an apology for my broken promises. And yeah, so that was it. It was not used for anything, but it was, I remember it was interesting because that was my journey to knowing Dojishin. It was because of that whole process. I know quite a lot about Dojishukden, the 5 families Dojishin's previous incarnations, and because I had to do research and about the practice, about the puja, and of the lineage lamas, Pabongka Rinpoche, Chujang Rinpoche, who they are and how they picture in the role of Dorje Shukden's lineage. So I have to learn all that, Yeah. So okay, one more thing. Besides that, actually, there's a lot of things I need to tell. Okay, let me see. One thing in the front. I don't know whether you guys are aware. Rinpoche at some point in his past was training to be an oracle. So, but he didn't finish his training as an oracle because his recognition as a Rinpoche arrived. So he was enthroned as a Rinpoche, and his teachers told him that you cannot be an oracle and a lama. A lama is more important than an oracle. At that time, Rinpoche didn't think he was a lama because he didn't know he was before his recognition. He just wanted to benefit a lot of people, and he figured that to be an oracle is such a wonderful way to help people, sentient beings. So he trained under Drigong Rinpoche, and he was doing retreats specifically to open his channels to be an oracle. So Rinpoche, although he didn't finish his training, he could channel. Okay, taking trance and channeling is different. Channeling is partial trance. That means Rinpoche is partially conscious of what's happening. Full trance is you get knocked out. That means when the deity enters, you completely fall asleep, and then the deity takes over. So Rinpoche would do a bit of channeling, and Rinpoche doesn't like to channel. In the beginning, he had to do a little bit more because he noticed Malaysians in general would have a little bit more faith when the words came from a deity, like Dorje Shugden. So Rinpoche would channel. And many times, and when I first knew Rinpoche, that period of time, the next 5 to 10 years, that period of time, right? Rinpoche channeled on many occasions, on individual basis and as for a group of his Rinpoche students. So there was, for some reason, when Dorje channels, he would give advice to everybody except me. I don't know why. I always, sometimes when Dorje, he's very, very kind, very compassionate. He will, depending on how much time he has, suddenly he doesn't have much time. He say a few words and then he has to leave. So he will give a kata to everybody. Then I'll be the only one like, what of me? So, but there's one time he did turn to me and he did tell me something, and this is how it went. He turned to me and he said, he didn't say anything first, sorry. He gestured. He used his hands. He did this. Are you looking? You look at my hands, huh? What it is a maze, going through a maze. So the hand is a movement of going into maze and going through the maze. And Rinpoche's and Dorje Shugden said to me, I gave you the dream last night. Do you remember it? And I said yes. How did you know? I didn't ask that loud. In my mind, I was thinking that. So I was like, when Dorje Shugden told me that, right, the hair on my back stood on end, and he gave me some advice, a very short one. It's something to do with that period of time. To be honest, I cannot remember, for the life of me, cannot remember what it was, but it certainly made an impact in me that time. That was the one and only time that Doji Shun gave me advice. Other than that, it was just totally, how I say, is everybody has advice given to, but not me. So it doesn't matter. Fortunately, I think anyway, Rinpoche and Doji Shun is one. So Rinpoche has given me a lot of personal advice. Some of them I have followed, some I have not. So I figured that I think it's more important for the Lama's advice anyway. So later on, Rinpoche gave us the practice officially to a small group of us who are ready. And he would ask us individually if we want the practice. And then Rinpoche would give it privately. During that time, Rinpoche explained that Doji Shun practice is not something that is to be publicly on display. This is not just about Doji Shukden as a deity because of the controversy. It is, Rinpoche say it is, but it's also practice that is for yourself, for your practice. So it's not something to be on display. So he started giving us teachings on how to do the practice and the benefits and who Doji Shukden was in his previous life, his incarnations. As you all know, now there's a lot of information ever since Rinpoche has come up publicly on this practice. Rinpoche has given a lot of information on the incarnation, the practice, and so forth. But Rinpoche said this about Doji Shukden, all right? Firstly, he said it about protectors in general. Then he said about Doji Shukden specifically. About protectors in general, by tradition, all right? By tradition in Tibet, in the old days, protector practice is not given simply. It's not a practice that when the moment you enter the monastery or when the Lama meets people, it's given to people. It is something that's given later, much later, when you have received initiation of your Yidam, if it's Lama Tsongkhapa, Manjushri, Chenrezig, Vajrapani, or Tara, whatever initiation, to do the practice, to understand the practice, to go into the meditations, to study the Lamrim, three principal paths, to understand the purpose of practicing or leaving samsara, renunciation. And then after all that, doing retreats of the Yidam, and then the Lama will consider giving you a protector. And you will be given the practice, sometimes giving the life entrustment, which is a protector initiation. It's called a life entrustment or sokte, life entrustment initiation for protectors. So Rinpoche said that was in the old days. Nowadays, people don't come to the Dharma because of enlightenment, because of of wanting to leave samsara, because of of wanting to receive initiation, to become, to transform their mind, to practice mind training, mind transformation. No, people come to the Dharma because they have problems. People come, they're looking for solutions. People come to the Dharma because they have afflictions, for example, spirit affliction. Whatever whatever problems they have, that is usually because they don't know the Dharma. So when you teach them the Dharma has everything. It's all encompassing. It has everything to solve all your everyday, but it's not immediate. You need to practice the Dharma and then you purify the karma and all that. So what happens is it doesn't immediately solve your problem, your immediate problem. So very few people have faith in the Dharma because of that. So it will take a long time before they can generate that faith. So Rinpoche said, so it's more skillful these days for lamas, to introduce them to a protector that will help solve their problems. So when they find that the protector exists, that he grants wishes, protects you from spirits, helps you overcome your obstacles, helps you get overcome your issues, right? Then you have faith, and then you start looking at the deities as real, and then you go into studying the Dharma. You're inspired to do so because if there is the protector, there is definitely the Buddhas. There's definitely Tara, Manjushri, and all that. Definitely, isn't it? Anyway, if you have any questions, also let me know. I know everybody is giving hearts and folded hands. Thank you very much. I appreciate that very, very much. Just, if you have any thoughts, share with me how you met Dorje Shugden. So the point about this is that Rinpoche said, these days people need that. And it will inspire a bigger group of people to practice the Dharma. So that is why Rinpoche focused on protector practice. By tradition, most Gelug Lamas do not do that. And so what happens is people come in because of the protector for the immediate problems, and then they get solved. Their problems get solved, and it helps them. It's one way of benefiting the public. And then what happens is a smaller group of people would stay and look into Dharma and find it meaningful and practice the Dharma. That is the Lamrim that you're studying. That is the 8 verses of thought transformation. That is the Lama Tsongkhapa practice, Guru Yoga. That is the Tara and so forth. All right. So what Rinpoche said is that because of that, that's why he has turned it around. And among all the Dharma protectors, Rinpoche's protector practice comes from Kechara Song Rinpoche. And it is something that he keeps very sacred. So what happens is, it is also well known. It is well known within the Tibetan circles and the monasteries that Dorje Shugden pujas, Dorje Shugden practice is very powerful and effective, very quick to gain results. Not that the other deities, protectors, are not quick. It's just that Dorje Shugden is quicker because of affinity. So he highly recommends Dorje Shugden for that sole reason. So when it's quicker, when it's faster, when it's more effective, what happens is people have faith when they get their problems solved. So that's the whole purpose in why Dorje Shugden, why Rinpoche recommend Dorje Shugden very much for people these days. Yeah, I was going to get to that, but before I get to that, another thing was when Rinpoche channeled, I had always one observation I had about Rinpoche's channeling was that Rinpoche would twitch. There would be a muscle here, right above his what do you call this? The upper lip, above the mustache. There's a twitch here that Rinpoche does when he channels. Because some channeling, it depends on the person that he's channeling for, depends on the circumstances. Some channeling is very peaceful. All because it sounds peaceful, there's very little breathing, and it's just all that Rinpoche is channeling is because of this twitch. And then Rinpoche's face turns like Dorje Shugden, a little ruffled. Sometimes it's that, sometimes it's more obvious that he's ruffled. So I've asked Rinpoche once, I asked Rinpoche, how do you move this muscle? Can you move this muscle? And Rinpoche looked at me and rolled his eyes. I cannot move that muscle. It's obviously during that time, it's moving because of the energy of Dorje Shugden, not because, I'm not trying to fake this, okay? Because at that time I don't know. I was just observing. I was just, the whole thing, I was just observing everything, and I can't help it. Because I'm not sure whether if it's real, it's Rinpoche pretending to be Dorje Shugden. Because I don't know Dharma very well. I don't know Rinpoche. I mean, I knew Rinpoche very well by then, but I just wanted to test it out. So I asked Rinpoche. I don't know why. Usually I dare not ask things like that, but that time I was, curiosity killed the cat. So I asked. So Rinpoche made all sorts of faces to prove the point that he couldn't twitch this muscle. He really contorted his face to the best of his ability, and whatever he did, he couldn't move because it's just one muscle here that twitch when Rinpoche channels. Yeah, that was just my observation, and I thought I'd share that with you. And Rinpoche had a very deep fascination with oracles, and Rinpoche had a very deep faith in Dorje Shugden. Totally, very deep connection with Dorje Shugden for obvious reasons. that some of you know, some of you don't know, doesn't matter. It's from lifetimes, Rinpoche's previous life. All right. So what happens is my first experience of Dojo Shun, besides through Rinpoche's channeling, was through a trance. Okay, this was very dramatic. Okay, and this is in Nepal. Maybe one or two of you were there, the senior students. And what happened was we were on pilgrimage in Nepal, and we got invited to one of Rinpoche's teachers, Ladrang. Ladrang is a lama's home and office, because a lama is a public figure. So what happens is the house that he stays in, he resides in, is also where he does his work. So what happens is when we visited, we were invited to a trance of a protected deity. Rinpoche did not tell us who it was that time, and but I knew, because I really did some research, so I knew. Let me see. Did I know? I think so. I think I did by then. So what happened was this experience, this oracle was from Ladakh, and he's kind of like an older gentleman, very small but very charismatic. And when we entered the room to sit down, right, typical Tibetan prayer halls. This is a fairly large prayer hall, medium size. So there was rows of seats at the back, and then there's cushions in the middle, because it's a trance. So there's a lot of people, a lot of us. Already the pilgrims were like a lot. I don't know, I can't remember, 20, 30 of us. And then there was a group of Tibetans, some monks, some lay people, and they were crowding, and it was so many. And then the oracle was standing in front of us, his back facing us. He was looking at the altar, and his hands were shivering already. He was in partial dress, because when you take trance, you have to have the regalia, the what do you call it? The I wouldn't call it a costume. The official clothes, armor, and all that. So they haven't put on the hat. The big round, the hat with all the flags. And so what happens was, he was already shaking, and the monks was chanting already. They were invoking Doji Shukden. And at the point, if you have done Doji Shukden pujas with us, the monthly Doji Shukden pujas, there's a time where the part where they start Om Dhamma Ratnita, then few times, 3 times. There's a mantra they recite, and then that is the time when Doji Shun took trance, because you can feel the energy, that it's electricity. It's electrifying. The oracle jumped, and to our horror, he turned to face us, and there was a kata, and he strangled himself. We were like, but he was okay, but you can hear him choking. I remember the choking sound. I was like, what's happening? And then he let go of the kata. And before that, of course, the monks already hurriedly. There's a certain part before the monks, they know the timing, when to put on everything. So they put on everything, and then the whole thing, all that happened. So he was in full dress, and then he strangled himself, and then he immediately made offerings to Dagom Rinpoche, which is Rinpoche's teacher, on the throne. And then I think Rinpoche came up to him. If I remember correctly, Rinpoche came up, and he offered offerings to Rinpoche, I think a kata or something like that, and they spoke. And then and it was a very quick thing, because he left. There was a commotion that time. I don't know what's happening, because it got a lot of people. There was a lot of things happening. So then he left. Then another trance happened, and I mean, in hindsight, now I know who it was, because that time I didn't know. Now I know it's Kachar Mapo. And he stayed longer, and he greeted every single one of us, and and Rinpoche was there. It's typical of Rinpoche. What he did was, when we met Kachar Mapo, Rinpoche would ask us if we have any questions, and if we don't, he would actually introduce us, one by one, oh, this is David. The time I was not pastor yet, lah. This is David. He's going to be a writer, and blah 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 blah. The background, telling Kachara Mapo, and please bless him. And then Kachara Mapo bless me. Same thing with not just with Kachara Mapo. For me, even Dago Rinpoche did the same thing. And because this one I know, because I would have forgotten about it, but Rinpoche was very kind to remind me years later, and to what happened. All right, okay. Anyway, I think there's some questions. Sorry. Okay, there's one from Fion. Oh, this statue. Okay, the next one after I finish the questions, I'll get to this. Actually, this. Okay. Hi, this is from Yvonne. Hi, Pastor Day. Hi, Pastor. When did Rinpoche started giving Dorjian practice to the public? 2016, 15 or 16, I forgot. It's fairly recent. Fairly recent. This is with permission from Rinpoche's teachers and Dorje Shugden. Because before that, Rinpoche has never wanted to really hide the practice. Nor did he want to announce it to the world either. But things changed on that year when it was given, the permission was given. All right, it was decided also by the committee. Sharon says, whenever Rinpoche channels, the energy in the room changes. Yeah, and even when, even trance is even more dramatic because of the music, the instruments that they play. It was even the puja, you just sit in the Dorje puja, the energy is electrifying because of the instruments that they use. And obviously, we are not praying to a statue, we're praying to a living deity, a deity that comes. Although we cannot see it, but we can feel. Some of us can feel. I can't feel, but you can feel the energy still. Okay. So this statue here, this one, the reason why Manjushri has turned to Dorje today is because this statue was not given to me. Rinpoche's, what Rinpoche did was, Rinpoche had a number of Dorje statues, and Rinpoche had me invite this one, and I had to pay for it. And Rinpoche said is the reason for it is so that I will collect merit. The money didn't go to me, of course, or to Rinpoche. How can the money go back to me? As in the money didn't go to Rinpoche, it went to the outlets. So what happens is this statue was invited by me, and then I asked Rinpoche to bless it. And one of Rinpoche's students painted it to this antique. That time Rinpoche developed this antique color. Traditionally, Tibetan statues will never look like that. It will be gold face with all the features painted, and then a lot of clothes, brocades and all that. And sometimes the whole statue will be color, full of color. If don't have, at least the face is painted brilliant gold with the features. All right. And it also will be a very colorful thing. So what happened was I asked Rinpoche to bless it, and he did. And then later on, I kept it for a number of years. Later on, my father started practicing Dorje Shugden because it was open that time. And I gave it to my father. I gave this statue to my father for his altar. I gave all the statues that my dad had for him and to practice. So this belonged to my father for a number of years until he passed away. All right. So Chung corrected me, and he said that it's 2014. Okay. Thank you very much, Chung. So what happened is this statue belonged to my father for a number of years till he passed away. And before he passed away, I had a feeling. Obviously my dad was very ill. He had cancer. So, but just before he passed away, I was supposed to travel to Nepal for some work. And I had a dream of not my father passing away, but my mother. It was really strange. My mother by that time had passed away. It was just my father, and he was suffering from cancer, and he was going through treatment. He seemed to be doing all right, but I had that dream, and then but when I woke up, I had a really strong feeling that it will be my father soon. So I asked Rinpoche whether I should still travel, and Rinpoche told me you should still travel. He didn't deny that there's a possibility that my dad would pass away, but he said that I should still travel. And since I'm traveling to Nepal, what a perfect opportunity to collect a lot of merits from my father. And he told me what to do, offer a lot of candles. It was not candles in Nepal, it was butter lamps. So it's butter lamps. They use ghee, in the butter lamps. And so I offer as much as I can at all the holy places like Swayambhuna, like the Vajrayogini temples, in dedication to my father. And then when it was finished, I came back earlier than was supposed for the trip. I was supposed to come back later, but I decided to come back earlier. And I came back earlier, and at that time, Rinpoche told me to come meet him, and he told me that he said that I have a wonderful opportunity now to manipulate my father's passing, as in for him to go to take a good rebirth. All right. So he told me how. He said that you should do Dorje Shukden pujas every single day. Actually, it doesn't have to be Dorje Shukden, but his feeling for my dad is Dorje Shukden. He said that in general, anybody who is passing away, if the person practices and has a strong affinity and faith in, let's say, Lama Tsongkhapa or Manjushri, then it will be Lama Tsongkhapa or Manjushri or whatever deity it is, Kuan Yin, or whatever, So, but for my father, it was Dorje Shukden, and this is what Rinpoche said. And so when you do the puja, Rinpoche said to visualize. He said very strongly visualize the Dharma work that my father did in his lifetime. Because my dad had been a very sincere volunteer in Kechara, and also the Ladrang. So Rinpoche would come very faithfully every, I don't know what is the duration he did. I think every week to make offerings, to clean the temple, to clean the Ladrang altar, and he would do it faithfully and diligently. And I was told that everybody liked my dad. Nobody really liked me. No, just kidding. So what happened was, so all that visualized is the 8 auspicious signs, the 7 royal emblems, and offered to Dorje Shukden. It rained down on Dorje Shukden. And that Dorje Shukden visualized, that's one. Number 2, Rinpoche asked me to visualize Dorje Shukden on top of my dad's head. Okay, on top of the head. Every single day, I must do the puja without fail, because the time, Rinpoche didn't say it, but I really understood what it meant. Time is short already for my dad. And my dad has discharged from the hospital because he didn't want to be in the hospital. And at that time, my Rinpoche also said that because my dad is close to passing, his eyes, he said, Rinpoche said, has switched to that of the Bardo. This is Rinpoche's words, meaning so what happens is he sees a lot of things. So Rinpoche told me don't worry. Don't worry about it. Tell my dad not to worry because he's protected. It's just that because they know, the spirits, the unseen beings will know when someone is dying because they are psychic. So they will know, and they will come around, they will hover around more. They will come and to witness, someone, it's like a new person, a new kid in the block. That's what Rinpoche said. And so what happens is, so you don't have to worry. As long as you do the pujas, as long as my dad is okay, everything will be fine. So that's what happened. So I did the pujas every single day to the day my dad passed away. So Alpha Black Tea, I did the whole, I used the diamond path, the long one. And I did the pujas, and just before, I think a week before my dad passed away, Rinpoche asked to see me, and he said he had a feeling. He had a feeling. He had a I think Rinpoche said a kind of a vision, as in he saw a vision of my dad being in a place where there's a lot of monks. The landscape has a lot of monks and a lot of temples. So Rinpoche said that, oh, there's a good sign. He feels that my dad will take rebirth, a good rebirth. So Rinpoche said that most likely in a place where there's Dharma, there's Sangha, and excuse me. And so yeah, then my dad's funeral and all that. So what happened was we did Dojishu pujas, of course, and the statue from mine became my dad, and now it's returned to me. So I don't know. I thought it had a huge significance because we Rinpoche with my dad, and yeah, so it's back to me. But in the process, in the funeral hall, I lost the heart and the mongoose, so I replaced the heart. I've yet to replace the mongoose though. I think I'm better soon. So what happened is the heart. I use a semi-precious stone. I offered it there. That's why there's this red dot, but you probably can't see it. It's not very clear. Okay, I have some comments here. Okay, Freon asks, can we visualize Dojishun on top of the live person's head as a blessing, or try to connect the person to Dojishukten? You do not need, for a person who's alive, you do not need to pray, to visualize it on the head. That is specifically for a person who is passing away. Why Rinpoche said on the head is because, I didn't explain, I'm explaining now, because this is where when your mind passes, when you're going to die, your mind will leave through one of the orifices on the body. So one of the places it can leave is through the upper body, or the lower body, or the middle. So it's ideal that the mind leaves the upper part of the body, the ears, the nose, the mouth, or the crown. The eye. The most ideal is the crown, because that would signify a positive rebirth. It has that karmic effect. So during that time, that's why the pujas, the pastors, sorry, not the pujas, the pastors, when they are doing last rites, they will put a lamrim here. They will pull the hair. They would place lamrim. They would place maybe a Buddha statue, a Tsongkhapa statue, or something like that. So they will place it here to trigger that the mind to leave. Okay, so that's the reason why the visualization was Dojishin on top of my dad's head. I wrote an article, actually, and I think it's in the 2-minute stories on Rinpoche's blog, detailing all of this. And so that's why, that's the reason. So for a living person who's not passing away, it's not necessary to visualize on the head. Actually, it's not necessary. But I mean, there's no harm doing that. But for a person who's dying, it is crucial. Okay, it's crucial that at that point, because why is it crucial? Because that's what they call the throwing karma. At that moment, that karma will be triggered. Actually, that where the mind leaves is also has to do with many other factors. It has to do with the person's spiritual practice. In this case, when you put something there, the person has spiritual practice, then it will be triggered for positive. If the person who had a lot of regrets, a lot of attachment, then that would trigger a lower rebirth. They will leave through the lower part of the body, and that will be a lower rebirth. So that is the throwing karma. So you want to trigger the right throwing karma, a good throwing karma to take rebirth. A person can have a lot of good karma, a lot of merits. In fact, if the throwing karma is bad, the person can take a negative rebirth. Still, it is possible, unless you have the power of control and enter into tuktam like Rinpoche. If you don't have that, tuktam is death meditation. So if you don't have that power, that's you and that's me. I don't think any Rinpoches or any Bodhisattvas are listening to me right now. So I assumed. Sorry. So we don't have that kind of control. We have to take all the steps as necessary. During that time, I've seen Rinpoche when a person has just passed away, it's important to do immediately a Dorje Shugden puja. That very moment a person passes away, to do a puja, a black tea, the whole puja, not just black tea, the whole puja, the whole diamond path. And if possible, complete with offerings, if not just the sikkim and some toma, some bread or cookies or something as toma, offer to Dorje to generate the merits, because that time is crucial. Okay, after that is 49 days. Then you do pujas if you can afford every single day. Then I've seen some people, they sponsor pujas every single 49 day. Wow, wonderful. Otherwise, if you cannot afford pujas every single day, then what happened is you can do 10 malas of Dorje mantra. Rinpoche recommends Dorje mantra or Om Mani Padme Hum, depending on, up to you. And Rinpoche has also in the past, immediately when a person passed away, Rinpoche would do Dorje puja and also light 100 candles. Always I hear Rinpoche saying, oh, light 100 candles, 100 candles for this person who has just passed away. Candles to generate the merit. Okay? Okay, there's some comments here about my father. Phoebe Yong says, I remember Uncle Lai did teach in children Dharma class. He's very patient. Oops, he jumped. He's very patient with kids. And Wei Ting says, I put a small DS card beside my dad's pillow when he was in hospital and put on her head when he passed on. Very good. Yeah. And then Sharon says, yes, I remember that Uncle Lai was very patient with the little ones, rather grandfatherly with my kids. Yeah, my dad was very, really into, he was very, very, he's very good with kids for some reason. Very nurturing, very fatherly, very, it's a very nice fatherly figure. But for so that's my dad lah. Yeah. So that endeared him to everybody. Actually, surprisingly, it's not just the kids, it's the adults. It's the adults. It's because I remember my father's funeral, just as a side note, right? During my father's funeral, there were so many people. It's like my dad is some kind of VIP, there are people, of course there's Kecharians, very, very, my dad is well known among Kecharians, and then his ex-colleagues, from various his relatives, all the, from the woodworks are so many people. I don't know if even my funeral will have even half of the amount of people that came to my dad's funeral, but it doesn't matter. It's just a testament of what a nice person my dad was. He's a simple, unassuming man. All right, a Dorje Shugden practitioner. So I will, if you have any other questions, let me see what else. I have to check my notes. Oh, okay. Yes. I already mentioned it that Rinpoche had recommended Dorje Shugden for people in general. Some people have affinity with Dorje Shugden, some people may not. But whatever it is, it doesn't undermine his incredible effectiveness, efficacy towards people. And I have actually actively asked people in the past of their experience with the practice, because there are allegations that Dorje Shugden practice, he's a spirit, and there's some negative repercussions from it. So my own personal experience, none. I have no negative repercussion from Dorje practice whatsoever. And so because of it, I still investigate. I ask people in Kechara, sometimes if I got a chance to people who have practice on the outside, I ask them too. And I've never come across anybody who had any negative repercussions. But the theory is Dorje has one ability that Rinpoche had said before, that when you practice and you hold your commitments with Dorje Shugden, he is very powerful, but he cannot take your karma away. He cannot take your karma away. You have to purify it with your practice, either with Dojishin practice or Dharma practice in general. All right. So what happens is he had an ability to hold back heavy negative karma that could maybe be dangerous for you, for your livelihood, for your life. So what happens is he holds back a lot of this negative karma from fruitioning at this time when you hold your commitment. You see, we always talk of samaya with the guru. There is also samaya with the deities that we pray to. Okay, so like Dojishin, we have some sort of samaya. Samaya means your connection with them. So your connection with them is built up through daily practices, offerings, keeping up with the offerings, keeping the practices. And with Dojishukten, if you practice the Dharma, if you learn the Dharma, it strengthens that bond. Because Dojishukten is not an ordinary Dharma protector. He is Manjushri. So when you practice the Dharma, even little Dharma that you practice is the best of your ability, like making offerings on your altar, learning about Lama Tsongkhapa, just simple Dharma. It will strengthen your bond with Doji Shukden. All right. So I wanted to bring that up because what happens is if there are situations where some people this maybe out of laziness, maybe out of negative influence from rumors and hearsay, decide to give up the practice or neglect their practice. What happens is it's like the shield. Haven't you watched Star Wars? When the shield comes down, then the enemy can. So what happens is your karma will come. So where does the karma come from? Does it come from Doji Shuden? No, it does not. It comes from you. It comes from your actions in the past, whether in this life or previous lives. It doesn't matter. It comes from us. Whether it's a previous life or this life, it comes from us. It doesn't come from Dojishun. It's just that Dojishun was a shield that protected you in the past. Okay, so when you neglect your practice, the shield is, before it comes down, it wavers a bit. So some of it will come through. So you don't want it to come through. You want it strong. That's one. Another thing is, when you practice Dharma, you learn enough Dharma, he is Manjushri. So what happens is sometimes it is time for us to experience obstacles. So what happens is the obstacles are carefully monitored by Doji Shukden and his entourage to ensure that we purify our karma. The obstacle is purification. If we keep our commitments, meaning our commitments, our pujas, our daily prayers, mantras, whatever practice you're doing with Doji Shukden, you keep it up, what happens is it will be carefully monitored to purify your karma. You see, purification and experiencing negative karma, fruitioning of karma is very different. Purifying means that the source of your karma, the source of the karma basically is being purified. So you will not experience it. Because sometimes the source is not purified or is still there, we can experience many things again and again and again, and we don't want that. All right. So Dojishin has this ability to help us in that way, to nurture us, and because it also doesn't help us in the long run if for our Dharma practice, if Dojishin just stop all negative karma. Because he can't. He cannot anyway. But what happens is when on his watch, he can heal certain karmas you have to experience to purify it. Because actually, by right, our purification practice is supposed to eliminate altogether. Okay, I must highlight this because some people have this misconception of a purification practice. The purpose of purification is to purify your mind of all negative karma, all karma. Okay? Not make it lighter and easier. It's not to lighten your karma. It is to remove it completely. That's the purpose of purification. Okay, everybody must understand that, because I always keep hearing feedback from people. Oh, isn't it to lighten your karma? No, purification is to remove it completely. So what happens is sometimes why we don't remove it completely is because our motivation, our knowledge, our practice is not there. We are four opponent powers. If you've studied Lamrim, you'll know this. The four opponent powers is not fully there. Our regret is not there. Our understanding is not, our refuge is not there, not fully there. So what happens is you only purify part of it. So what happens is, so Dorjishin will need to let some through to help us purify. All right. So Dorjishin has many benefit. What do you call of these abilities, of these benefits that will help us in our Dharma practice. There's no such deity, no such practice that will remove all karma, except we become enlightened. So the only way to do that is through the Dharma practice, to practice Dharma, especially the higher practices. Okay, so I won't go so much into that now. So it's okay, let me see what's the last few things. I see some Alan Koo. I personally experienced Dorjishin's miracle that cured my skin infection because of a spiritual affliction. Oh, that's interesting. And Mr. Lam says, I was Uncle Lai's colleague back in 2000. He was very nice man, patient, and very generous. He's sincere and friendly. Thank you very much. He is indeed. Alan Koo said, I was guided to Dorjishin by my personal Kuan Yin after I prayed to her to guide me to a Buddha to heal my infection. One day I switched on my PC and the first page that appeared on my Google was Kechara website. Wow, that's interesting, huh? So you pray to Kuan Yin, and then Kuan Yin. There's no rivalry between the bodhisattvas. Manjushri and Kuan Yin is, Manjushri and Dorjishin is the same, is there's no rivalry, no competition. Sometimes because the manifestation of Manjushri in the form of Dorjishin is more effective to remove obstacles. So it's very good that you found a solution for your issue. Usually with skin problem, right, it's a Naga related issue. You can read about it if you want. Okay, I've come to an end. Thank you very much, all of you guys, for joining me and sharing with me how, especially for Alan, thank you. I don't think I know who you are, but thank you for joining and sharing with us your experience with Dorjishin's practice. And I've shared mine and how I personally, okay, before I finish, personally, I haven't asked Dorjishin about anything specific. Let me think. I have in the past asked for other people, and it turned out to be very quick. For myself, oh yes, it's of course. For myself, is my legal issues in recent years. I had a bunch of legal issues, personal legal issues, and it came out exactly as was said by Dorjishin, because I asked for, anyway, yeah. So through Rinpoche and all that. And I had to do a bunch of pujas, including Dorjishin puja. So he was very, very effective. All right. Thank you very much, everybody. I'll be coming on in 2 weeks' time. Let me see what's my next one. Next one is Temple in the Mall. Temple in the Mall. All right. So I just hope you join me again in 2 weeks' time. Thank you very much. And good night.